Now that we have understood the user interface of Maya, let's look at the viewports. Now, before start working, I like to keep the viewport the biggest size possible so that we can easily work on it, especially when you have a smaller monitor. So what I can do is I can hide this shelf and a couple of other things here which I will not be using right now. So I'll just go ahead and right click here and choose shelf so that that hides the shelf. And I'm not going to create any animation, so I don't need the time slider and the range slider. I can also go to display, choose UI elements, and I can also click on range slider and time slider. So this gives us the biggest size possible. Now I have just loaded up a simple file so that we can just work on it. Now to work on a 3D viewport, we need to use combination of both keyboard and mouse. So it is always the best idea to keep your left hand on the keyboard and the right hand on the mouse. Now if I press Alt key and left mouse button and drag in the viewport, I will be able to orbit the camera. So that means like I can see the different views or different sides of my character. If I use my Alt key and right mouse button, I can zoom in and zoom out. If I use Alt and middle mouse button, I will be able to pan left, right, up, or down. Now this is very useful, especially when you're zoomed in too much closer and you want to see the eye of the character, for example. All we have to do is press Alt key, click with middle mouse button, and move to the right so that I can see the eyes. Say for example, if I want to see the nose, all I have to do is press Alt key, use middle mouse button, click and drag. So I can just press Alt key and right mouse button again to zoom out to the full. Now let's say for example you've zoomed in too much or you've zoomed out too much and you want to see all your objects in the scene. All you have to do is press the keyboard shortcut A. Now apart from this perspective viewport, we also have other orthographic viewports. If I press spacebar in my keyboard, it will reveal the other viewports that we have. So we have side view, we have front view, and we have top view. Now if I want to make any of these viewports to be bigger in size, all I have to do is move the mouse on top of that viewport and press spacebar. Now let's talk about two other shortcut keys that we will be mostly using while we're working with our viewport. One is a shortcut key F to frame a selected object. The other one is A, which is to frame all the objects in our scene. Let's say for example I want to work closely on this eye, and the eye is a separate object. All I have to do is select the eye and press F. So what it'll do is it'll make only the selected object to be optimal viewable size in the viewport. If I want to see all the objects in my scene, all I have to do is press A. So pressing A will frame the entire scene. If I press F, it will frame only the selected object. Let's see how this works in the multiple views. So if I press and release spacebar, I will get the other three viewports. As you can see that in the top view, the object is pretty small, and in the other views, it's zoomed in too much. If I want to frame the object in all the different views, all I have to do is press Shift and A. As you can see that now the cat looks in full size in all the other views. Now these viewports are also called panes. I can also change and modify the layout of these panes inside Maya. If I go to the left side, we've got all these different types of layouts. And right at the bottom, we have an option to change the layout. If I just right click here, I can choose a single pane or two panes side by side or two panes stacked up or in any other way we want. So if I choose single pane, as you can see that whatever the selected view, it becomes full screen. If I right click again, and this time I can choose two panes side by side. So we've got the perspective and the side view. If I choose right click here again and choose split top and bottom, so we've got in the top two and then in the bottom just one. We can also choose one of these presets from here. So if I click on this one, for example, we've got perspective view and the outliner. And depending on what kind of work we are doing, we can change to any other panels we want just by going to panels and choosing panel here, and we can choose any of these other objects like the UV texture editor or tracks editor if you're working on animation, or the visor if you want to bring in some paint effects, or the hypershade if you're working on your texturing. All you have to do is select on that so that that pane will be filled with the panel that we wanted to open. You can also adjust the layout, or you can take a completely new different preset. So that concludes this video on Maya's viewport.